All right, we're live. Good evening. Good evening. We're live. Hello, everybody. Craig, good day. Thanks for joining. I appreciate the kind words. How's everybody doing? Thanks for joining. We're doing a rhythm styles workshop tonight. We've done many of these in the past, just a sampling of some styles, just some rhythm guitar type approaches that, hopefully inspire you to experiment and find some things to add into your practice routine, experiment, create your own exercises based off of what I show you. What's up, Mick? Good day, good morning from Australia, from Yas. Danny Ryan from Arkansas. Excellent. Good to see you, Danny. Nikki the dog is here. Right on. Cheers back at you, Rich. Good morning. Steve-O. NH. I always stumble over that. I always look at it and want to stay Steve O, and I forget the N in there. So from New Hampshire, I'm thinking. Steve O. What's up? Jody, good to see you. Jim Gregory. Oh, man. Hopefully we can forget about the rough week. Happy that you're here as well. Kyle, what's going on in Chicago? Thanks for joining. Jazz House, greetings from Washington. All right. Welcome, everybody. Carmine, what's up? Good to see you. Zane from the Mile High City. All right. King 50 from Northern Nevada. All right. So we got a lot of the crew here tonight. If we have anybody joining in for the first time, as always, below click the description below, expand the description, and get the link to the tabs. All right. Ken from Nashville. Right on. Good to see you. So rhythm styles. So pull out the tabs a little bit, and we'll have kind of run through a few genres, and try to keep it sort of simple, at least for most of it. Dennis from Arkansas, what's up? All right. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. As always, with these rhythm style workshops, we do some strumming exercises. This one's just a basic sort of strumming pattern, where we want to try and parse out not only from the tab, but from the staff above the tab, and figure out the rhythm for what's going on there and how we should strum this particular pattern. What's up, Rusty, Jersey Red? Good to see you. In that first bar, we're starting with a B minor. Igor from Mexico City, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Okay, so I'm barring down. Jay, what's up, Jay? Good to see you. Barring down from the B note, 2nd fret of the 5th string, bar all the way up, add the 4th fret of the D and G, 3rd fret of the B strings. Okay, always a good chord to work on. This is sort of a bar chord shape that we got to get used to. So if it's not so clean for you, always remember to get the fingers on there, check. Make sure all the notes are ringing out nice and cleanly. If they're not, get that kind of thing, right? You got to raise the curl in the finger, experiment with your fingers, the way that they're hitting the strings, okay? Once you get that, shake it out and try to go right back to that, okay? That's how you practice how to get onto that chord quickly and cleanly, is the muscle memory of just figuring out how to arc those fingers and make all those notes ring out nice and clean. And make note of that, and then try to go to it immediately every time you get your fingers on there, okay? That's what we want to do. All right, Jody 1, American Woman, excellent. Good job on that one. Jim from Benson, all right. Rexland, what's up? ATM channel, how are you? Right back at you. We're doing good. I hope you're well. Kenneth, what's up? Good to see you. Oh, excellent. Jody 1, I'll have to check that out. Any Guitar Tricks members out there want to check out the listing post and check out Little American Woman, right? Sounds good. So let's dive into the strumming pattern for exercise 1. Again, expand the description below to get the link to the tab. You should see the tabs underneath here. So sort of your first clue a little bit are the flags connecting the notes on the staff. Okay, and when we're in 4/4 time, what you're trying to look for are clusters of 4 chunks. Okay, and usually how they're connected is with the flag on the top. So if you notice in that first bar, if you look at the staff part over top the tab, you can see the first one is a quarter note and it's by itself. Okay, so we're just doing one strum right on the count. And then we've got the next chunk where we've got a flag connecting two strums, right? And one of them is a dotted 8th note and one of them is a 16th note. And so you can kind of see, okay, so that takes care of the second beat of the bar. Now the third beat of the bar is the next cluster of connected notes with the flag on top, right? We've just got one flag on that one, so that's 2 8th notes. And then that final cluster has got 3 rhythms there, but one of them's tied with those sort of arced lines connecting from the previous chunk. And that is telling you that we are holding that strum over the next beat, okay? And we've got 2 more strums after that. So that's sort of, sort of a way to start thinking about how to figure out what this rhythm is without hearing it, right? Like the obvious way to try and figure out the rhythm is if you have a reference of the song that you're learning or the video that you're learning from where you can kind of listen to it, right? And try to connect it with what's happening on the staff. But once you get familiar with learning how rhythms work on the staff, you should be able to look at that and be able to think about, okay, how does this rhythm go without hearing a reference, right? Be able to just kind of figure it out. So what we've got here is the first beat is just a downstroke right on the first count, 1 E and right? If we connect, if we subdivide each beat in the bar, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, into 16th notes, which means 4 divisions per beat, then we're going to go 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and it's about figuring out where the strums happen in each of those subdivisions. So we're looking at the first beat. There's just one strum right at the top, right on the 1 E and we let it ring out. In the second beat, we're going to have it's a dotted 8th note. So that means that's going to stretch across 2 E and 2 E and So I'm going to get an upstroke on that final 16th note subdivision. That's why I go to an upstroke. So, okay, 1 E and 2 E and Third beat, 3 E and okay, so those are 2 downstrokes. And we're going to hold that over to the last one, going to 4 E and So you put it together, this strum goes like this. 1. Okay. Now let's put it together with the chord progression. We've got B minor. And then we're going to move up 1 fret and sort of keep that same shape, but move your middle finger off the B string. And so you're barring down on the 3rd fret and you've just got the 5th fret of the D and G. That gives you a C sus2. So those 2 bars together. All right, 3rd bar, E minor. And we're taking that B minor shape and moving it up to the 7th position. It's the exact same chord shape. This is a minor bar chord shape with the root 5 or root on the 5th string. So exactly the same hand shape as B minor up here at the 7th fret. We apply that strum to it. And then we've got a D sus2. We're coming back down 2 frets. Same shape, except once again, your middle finger is off. And you've got it. The sus shape that we used on C, now we've just got it up 2 frets on D. So let's put it all together. All right, how does it feel? Little bit of a tricky strum pattern, okay? Because you start getting into 16th note subdivisions and it can get kind of confusing. So what I recommend, and those of you who have been with me for a while know this is sort of my way to think about strums, is you want to keep this going in like kind of the motion of the subdivisions, 1E and a, 2E and a, that kind of thing. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Think of it that way. And if you keep it going, I don't know if you noticed, but as I played through, I sort of kept that general motion going. And I'm only coming in to strike the strings when we actually have a strum. But when we let it ring out, I'm still keeping time here. See that? Okay. Your timing will kind of fall out if you sort of do this kind of thing and you don't have a steady motion going. It's a lot more natural and a lot more just steady time happening when you've got nice and loose here and just hitting it like that. All right. Mark, what's going on? How you doing? Thanks for joining. All right. So a little bit challenging off the top, but I think just a few things to think about. Look at those flags, try to find those clusters of what's the first beat, what's the second beat, how is it subdivided. And I put in the tabs where we're strumming, I'll put in where it's a downstroke, which is sort of that staple looking thing, and where it's an upstroke, where it's the V shape. And you see those under the notes, above the tab, but below the notes on the staff. Okay. And it's a matter of assigning, if you think about 16th note subdivision is a down, up per beat. So you just have to figure out where that, where you want the strum to be and whether that's a downstroke, upstroke, and sort of work it out with that motion. Hopefully that helps. Probably clear as mud, but we'll see. All right, exercise 2, syncopated rock rhythm. Kind of hear this sort of chord progression in a lot of different songs. This is chord progression based out of E minor, where you're sort of playing an upper chord and changing the root notes against that upper chord, and sort of implying larger chords, but playing it a little more economically on the guitar. I'll just play it and we'll talk about it a little bit here. That sort of idea, all right? Where we've got an upper chord, which in this case turns out to be a power chord. 2nd fret of the D, 4th fret of the G string. All right, and that's an E power chord. You got a root and a 5th. And if I'm gonna have that shape, and I'm starting on the low E string, and I'm gonna pulse on that, right? So I've got 2 strums. I'm using all downstrokes here. We've got 8th notes, so it's 1 and 2 and. Okay. So we're letting that chord ring out. All right, so what you've got are the chords happening on the top of the 2nd beat and the end of 3. And so whenever that happens, when you sort of have accents that aren't just on the beat, we call that a syncopation or a syncopated rhythm, okay? Because it has a little bit of texture and movement to it, right? It's not just like, right? It's more of a, that kind of thing, where those stabs are coming out in between the beats, gives it its own little sort of groove and vibe. We're letting everything ring out in this case, so it's really just 2 strums on the root, and then a strum on the chord, another 2 strums on the root, strum on the chord, and another 2 strums on the root. And that finishes up our rhythm pattern for that bar And we're just going to repeat that. And then in bar 7 and bar 8, I'm going to just change the root notes. Okay. Oh, what's up, Jim? Windsor. All right. Well, congrats on the move. Windsor, Ontario. Jim, good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. So that's what happens here. You notice that syncopation more when you go into the next bar, because now you've got 2 strums on the low E, and then another 2 strums on the low E as you enter the next bar of the rhythm, right? So that's what kind of breaks it up. Right here. Okay, and then just go into that A, and the chord that this is implying is an A sus2, okay, which is your open A chord with an open B string there instead of the 3rd. And you're essentially playing the same thing without the high E note, with that E power chord shape up top. Gives it an A sus2 sound. So we're implying that chord. And then it's really easy to just keep that chord shape and add the C note, 3rd fret of the low string. So let's think about the notes we've got here. Root, 3rd, and then the major 7, which is a B note. So this doesn't have the 5th in the chord, but it's basically a C major 7, right? You can play the full chord like this. Open C chord without anything on the B string. That's a C major 7, nice floaty chord, and we sort of implying it here with this shape. You hear the difference, right? It's still very much a C major 7, so I just thought this was a really cool rhythm, the kind of, just a syncopated, straight ahead kind of thing. Cool. All right. Hanging in there. All right. Moving on to exercise 3, a plucked rhythm with mutes. This is another rhythm approach here. I guess this is sort of a pop rock kind of rhythm. Very nice on acoustic. And by the way, all of this, any of these can be applied to the acoustic as well. For this one, we're going to use some plucking with your fingers. I'll just play it through and then we'll talk about it. Here we go. A little bit more. That's what I'm going for here. Okay, so you can tell it's just could be an R&B thing, could be a pop rock thing, definitely an acoustic thing. A few things going on here. So the first one is, if you notice the chord's written on top of the staff, that gives you a clue of the chords that we're playing off of. It tells you what the chords are that we're playing off of. So even though we're not going to be strumming the full chord, we're just sort of picking notes from the chord, it's always a good idea to just form the entire chord. Okay, so A minor, and you can see that you've got the 2nd fret of the G string and 1st fret of the B string. So that should tell you that this full open A minor chord is going to work, right? And we're going to pick the open A string, which is the root, and I'm using my fingers up top on the G and B string and doing a pluck like that. And then afterwards, it's a muted strum denoted in that tab by the X's on all the strings. That means you're doing this thing. Okay, I've got my karate chop here, and I'm also using my pick and my fingers to kind of just smack the strings a little bit and make that percussive sound. Okay. So don't even worry about the rest of this exercise if this is new to you. What you want to do is just work on this technique to get this sort of rhythm down, right? All right. Then the next chord is a G/B. Second fret of the A string, and I've got the third fret of the B string. And once again, I'm just picking the A string second fret and plucking the B and G string. Okay, so you've got next is a C chord, 3, and I've got 5 and 5 up here. Now you can certainly play the chord that way, but as I said before, you can also do the full bar chord if you'd like. Why I always suggest fretting the entire chord, even if you're just sort of plucking a few of the notes from it, is that if you happen to make a mistake and pluck the wrong strings, at least you'll be holding the chord, right? Because if I do this and I, by mistake, go right instead of like that, while I'm holding the chord, I've hit a note that's in the chord. So it's not going to jump out as a mistake as much as that, where it sounds totally different than what we're going for. Does that make sense? So in that second bar, okay, doing that, I'm just grabbing the full C major bar chord shape right there, getting it that way. All right, same thing with the G. Okay, you might want to put your finger on the third fret of the high string just in case you happen to hit it. And it still sounds like a G chord instead of, that sounds like something totally different. Okay, so notice I've got the full open G chord right there. Okay, so all right, makes sense? Hopefully so. All right. Number 4, the Gallop rhythm. I don't know if we've covered this before. I probably did a while ago, but I sort of made a different exercise out of this. And once again, using power chords. And our rhythm in the first, I've got this exercise 4, Gallop rhythms, but there's 2 sort of exercises side by side here. Playing off a B power chord, second fret of the A, fourth fret of the D string. So this is what the first bar sounds like if I play it through a couple times. Okay. Using all downstrokes there, and this is a good opportunity to work on palm muting and then open it up to play a full chord. Okay, so now palm muting, karate chopper, right? And I'm going to place it down by where the strings come out of the saddles, however your guitar is, but you usually want to be down by the bridge. Lightly, okay, and just practice the technique. Just move your hand around that bridge area, pick a power chord, and just see how it sounds. Different locations of where you're putting down your karate chopper, and so you can practice. Like that, and then okay, now I'm going to pull the palm muting out whenever I do the full chord. So you might have to go slow, but you're doing a strum where you're pulling your karate chopper all the way off and then coming back down for the root note. Okay, so get going a little faster. Right? If you wanted to go a lot faster, okay, yeah, we got a little bit of 80s going on tonight. The next one is where I'll do that gallop, adding in an upstroke. So you can go a little bit faster. And I've got the whole thing palm muted, so I'm not opening up to that full chord. I'm going. Okay, and so what I'm doing is, once you get going, you've got groups of 3 strums, and so you've got a down, up, down going on. Okay, and it's really cool to work on that because you've got a downstroke and upstroke just on 2 strings. Okay, so you want to try to make it sound as consistent and as steady as you can. And also strumming fast while palm muting, right? Okay, so it's a great skill to have, and it just works great to, you know, get a little bit of palm muting skill going. And also just the picking and rhythms, right? You want to try and practice those getting faster and faster with it, because that'll just make it, when you play slower, the muscle memory will be a lot smoother, and you can, you know, think more about the groove of it rather than the mechanics of it, right? That's where the practice comes in, and building it into muscle memory so that you don't have to think about the actual mechanics of everything, and you can work on the being musical with it. All right. All right, so some palm muting type stuff there, and some power chords, the gallop. So we get going fast with this. They call it the gallop because it sounds like kind of a team of horses, right? That kind of idea, okay? Getting the cavalry going. All right, everybody hanging in? Let's go to some country now. Sort of a country, really simple boogie thing, but again, played with a certain technique that makes it, you know, maybe pop a little bit. So. So normally, let me just play this because it's not really explained on the tab how to use, you know, pick and fingers and all that kind of stuff. Your only clue is that it's plucked. And so I'm actually using one of my fingers to pluck the D string on this, or the 4th string. But if I wasn't going to do that, you would play this. Okay, which is just a straight sort of blues groove, a boogie blues groove. Okay. And yes, Ray, the Barracuda, right? Previous example. All right, so we're playing off an open A power chord, open A string, open 5th string, 2nd fret of the D and G strings, and then playing off that root, going to the 4th fret of the D and then the 5th fret of the D and then back to the 4th. And this comes from the blues, right? If we're going to play this as a blues, that's what we're going for. But if you kick up the tempo a little bit and you straighten it out so that it's straight time instead of that blues shuffle, you can get into the realm a little more of country, right? Where it's also, you know, Southern rock, classic rock, that kind of thing, but it's also, with clean guitars, country. Right? You hear that all the time. But let's make it even more country just by adding the pluck. on the D string, right? So I'm using my middle finger. And the other thing I'm doing is, yeah, Georgia Satellites, exactly. There's another one, right? So what I'm doing when I pluck is I'm going to lift my finger off the note to make it a little more staccato. And that's going to make it cluck a little bit more. That kind of idea, right? So do you see what I'm doing there? I'm kind of just grabbing that D string, plucking it, but also cutting off the note faster. And then you could even go up and get, 2 fingers getting the D and G string for the top, that full power chord. So I moved it up to the D. You can even hear it smacking a little bit more. I'm playing off the open D chord. Everybody kind of get that? See where I'm going with that? All right. Very simple, but there's a little bit to it, right? And like for all of these examples, experiment. Move them to different keys, move them to different parts of the fretboard. Try to put your own little spin on this. It's where you come up with with really cool stuff, right? Hopefully. And if you got to go super slow with this, then that's what you got to do, okay? That's what it's all about. Right on, third phase of the moon. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, if you got to work it up and go real slow at first and work it and work it, that's how you burn it in. That's how you program the muscles and the fingers. Cool, Jim, right on. Excellent, excellent. What you'll find, just as a general note, in country, I mean, of course, in all genres, it's great to incorporate the fingers, but especially country. Just normal rock sounding stuff. If you start plucking stuff with fingers, it just gives it that country twang like immediately, right? So that's what you'll find. A lot of the country players are digging in with those plucks, and just it's totally a sound thing for that genre. No worries, Rusty. Glad you're back. All right, going to a funk riff. Let's see here. Let's see what it is. That's what we're going for. All right. Can never go wrong with, even if funk is not really your bag, as a guitar player, I strongly suggest that you, every once in a while, just work on some funky stuff, because it's all about groove, strumming, okay? And it's going to help you in all other genres, all right? You don't need to be a funk guitar player, but appreciate it and get into it and try to learn this stuff, because it will help you. Your timing, your groove, your strums, all that stuff. So let's break this down a little bit, okay? I'm using a dominant ninth shape, which is like the funk chord shape, starting on the D note, 5th fret of the 5th string, or the A string, and then the 4th fret of the D string, and then barring down with my ring finger on the top 3 strings, 5th fret. And that gives you that bluesy, funky dominant ninth. In this case, it's a D9, sliding up 1 fret. So that's the first kind of cool thing. You slide it up 1 fret to an E flat 9. Okay, so even just practicing that, right? Now remember, I've got this going, and especially in funk, because it's 16th note based. Now you can strike the strings and work on your down ups and sort of hear it percussively. Okay? Now, how am I doing that? Well, I'm pressing down into the chords, sliding up to that E flat 9, but then lifting off the frets, but not off the strings. Okay? I'm holding my shape on top of the strings, but I'm not pressing down. I've lifted up. So that deadens the chord right there. Right? So now I can just strum. Go a little bit slower. Okay? So now what do we see? Well, we have a look there, and we've got just 2 muted strums after that. So now notice, I do the downstroke at the 5th fret for the root. And my arm is coming up for the upstroke, but I'm not striking it because I'm sliding up. Okay, so that means that I can stay in time and come back down with the down up on that first beat, right? Okay, this is going. Second bar, I'm going to do the down up on the E flat 9. Okay, then cut it off and do another down up mute. So one more time. All right, third beat. I'm going to add my pinky onto the 8th fret of the high string, but still hold down that chord. Very common move here to embellish the chord. That's just one strum, and then an up, down, up, down, up, down after that. So, and then on that final upstroke, we're going back to the original chord. So I'm just adding it in for that one sort of chord strum. Let's see. One more time slow. Then you see after that, it's just a full beat of down, up, mute. So there's no strum after that. It's just down, up, down, up. So let's try and plug that in. Whoops. One more time. All right, so we'll put a couple of these together. That's what we're going for. All right, and hopefully want to work it up to sort of this tempo. Cool. Now, once you've got that, what else can we do? Well, you want to try and do it without the mutes. Okay, and this works best if you've got like a drum groove that you're practicing to or a backing track or something. But practice without those strums going. Okay, you still want to be doing the motion. Like that, right? If I go slow, because that's how you got to work it up. But try it without the mutes, okay? Because there's plenty of funk stuff that happens where they're not doing that percussive muting sound in between, okay? And you got to be dead on time to make that sound good, all right? And so just go slow with it, burn it in, and keep this motion going, even though we're not striking the strings with that. Right? Great exercise to do that. Makes sense. Are you with me? Who's with me? All right. Thanks for hanging in. Excellent, excellent. All right. Kind of got a weird little riff here that involves some triads and single notes, but I thought it was kind of cool. Cool stuff if you haven't seen these kind of chord shapes or this kind of idea with a arpeggio, basically. And I'll talk about that in a sec. Let's see if I can figure out what this riff is. All right, so it could be pop riff, rock riff, what it could be an 80s riff. Keeping with the 80s theme tonight, maybe. Full open A, or actually not a full, but pretty much an open A chord. And actually the way that you want to sort of think about this riff is basically an A triad on the D, G, and B strings. There you go, William, what's up? Yes, a little bit of La Bamba, right? That kind of idea. Little bit of that vibe for sure. Think of this as an A triad. Triad being a 3-note chord, and in the case of major chords or minor chords, the 3 notes that actually spell those chords. You know, those are 3-note chords. So they're sort of like the bare minimum chord to make a major chord or a minor chord. In this case, A major. I'm just barring down on the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B string. So I've got an E, A, C sharp. Well, A is the root. Okay. Of course, in this case, A is not the lowest note of the triad, but that's okay because we have these different triad shapes where we kind of mix up the notes a little bit. But this one, the root's sort of in the middle of this chord shape. The 5th's the lowest, and the 3rd of the chord is the highest note. Now we're adding it to the open A string. So, but what we've got in this riff is a common move to this shape, which is another triad shape, 4th fret of the D string, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B. Now what we've done is moved from an A chord, A triad, to a D triad, D major. In this case, we've got the D is the highest note, 3rd fret of the B, A is the 5th, and the lowest note is the 4th fret of the D string, which is the F sharp note, which is the 3rd of the chord. Okay, so this riff is showing you, okay, one of the most common guitar moves ever is just to go back and forth between the 1-finger major triad to basically the 4 chord, just by adding those frets onto it, right? In this case, 2 frets up on the D string, 1 fret up on the B string will get you to the 4 chord. And so thousands and thousands and thousands of songs and riffs have been built off of this move. Okay, so it's really important. It's heard all over the place. So in the case of this riff, I'm sort of pedaling, off of that open A string and letting it ring out. And so you sort of have the sound of the D chord, D major, with the A in the bass, which is very common sound, okay? And then in the second bar, I've added a single note riff into it, okay? So I've got the 5th fret of the A string, 4th fret of the D string, 7th fret of the D string. And then I move that up 2 frets, same shape. Okay. But this particular shape is an arpeggio shape because it's outlining the major chord notes, D, F sharp, A, root, 3rd, 5th. So that is the sound of a major arpeggio. If I move it up 2 frets, that becomes an E major, right? E, G sharp, B, root, 3rd, 5th. Okay. Makes sense? All right, so what do we learn in this example? Well, just simple moves, simple chord moves, triad moves over a pedal note, and then just playing a chord in a different way, an arpeggio. Simply going up the notes in the chord, moving it up. Okay, and you can use these all over the neck. Right? Those shapes are all over the place, okay? They work great in riffs. They work great in your solos too. Making sense? All right. Triad riffs with arpeggios, single note arpeggios. For our blues example tonight, exercise 8. Okay, I'm going to do this in the key of B so that you can kind of move this around the neck and transpose it if you'd like. This is the rhythm. Play this for you here. String them together. Okay. So maybe in the key of B for a blues riff might go something like this. Okay. Sort of an example of how you'd work that into a 12-bar blues, but I just gave you the 1 chord sort of riff. And of course, experiment with this. What's interesting about this riff is that it's really chromatic, which means, you know, we're kind of climbing up the frets and hitting lots of notes. So what are we hitting? Got the root, okay, from the key of B, starting on the root, which is the B note, 7th fret of the low string, right? Okay. And from there, going to the minor third in relation to B, which is the D note, and then the major third. Now, this sound is one of the hallmarks of the blues, where you're blending, you're always sort of going back and forth between the minor third and the major third against the root. But it doesn't stop there. Then it goes to the 4 against the root, flat 5, which is the blues note, by the way, flat 5, and then end up on the 5th. Okay, so pretty cool, right? So go a little bit slower. And then you add in that extra little skip beat, right? We're doing like that, those little 16th notes just to give it some texture and give it kind of some character. And then boom, you've got like kind of this cool blues riff, right? All So I thought it was pretty cool. Space Cowboy. There you go. Thanks, Nikki. There we go. Good stuff, right? Nikki the dog. All right. All right. So finishing it off. And by the way, we're going to have a few minutes here at the end. So any questions, guitar related? We do have a request for an AC/DC sample riff. So I can definitely do that when we're finished. But any other sort of general guitar questions, I'm happy to attempt to answer for you as we finish up tonight. But thank you so much for hanging. Last example 9, R&B riff. It's kind of a little bit different. Just some interesting ideas here. Lots of space, but starting with the open A string down up, right? So we're in the key of A for this. This was kind of cool, right? Playing off an A triad. We're talking about triads. Well, here's another shape. Excuse me. Excuse me. On the same string set, D, G, and B string. But here's an A major with the root on the bottom. It's the lowest note. 7th fret of the D string, 6th fret of the G, 5th fret of the B string. And what you're doing is strumming it and hammering on your pinky to the 7th fret of the B string. Okay, which is kind of cool. So you're going from an A major to an A6 when you do that, because you're replacing the 5th with a 6th. Oh, the 4-note C chord. We'll get to it. We'll get to it, Jersey Red, Rusty. We'll get to it. All right, so on this A major triad, root's the lowest note. Practice strumming, hammering on, and then cutting off the chord. And then we're going to do these 6th interval double stops. 5th fret of the D and then 5th fret of the B. So you've got a string in between there that you have to kind of mute if you're going to strum it, right? So you got to make sure to curl your fingers down so that it's muting that G string. Slide it up 2 frets to the 7th fret. And then back to the 5th fret. Go a little bit slower. Now remember, we got to mute the stuff in between. You've got actual rests denoted in the staff there. So we have to use the karate chop or whatever to kind of cut off those chords. Right? And then, so what I do is I sort of lift off the chord and make sure the karate chop's down. Thanks, William. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining. All right, so it could be an R&B sort of rock thing or whatever, but we've got some slides, we've got a hammer on, we've got some rests. Okay, so pretty cool thing to kind of practice a little bit. I'm going to play it one more time just so you have it in the video if you want to come back and just work with it a little bit. See if I can get it. Cool. Well, yeah, we got a couple minutes left for your questions. Can we do an emulation of an AC/DC sample riff? Why don't we just do an AC/DC sample riff? Geez, what would it be? Let's do that. that a little bit, right? One thing about AC/DC is that lots of power chords in the riffs, but a lot of times they're using open chord power chords, open power chords. Right? So you've got the low open E power chord, and I'm barring down on the second fret of the D and A strings. But a lot of times you'll see the G chord without the third in the chord, right? So we'll have the third fret of the low string, but curl the finger to mute the A string, and then you've just got roots and fifths. Open D, open G, and then the third fret of the high string and B string. Then it goes to the D chord. Well, I've got the second fret of the G, third fret of the B, and the open D string. That doesn't have the third in it either. It's just a power chord. When I go to the A chord, open A string, second fret on the D and G, no third. So with a little bit of distortion and a lot of volume, those chords tend to sound really nice. They're really neutral and they really cut through. Okay, so. So there you go. That's sort of like an AC/DC sample riff. It's an actual AC/DC song, I believe. Off Back in Black's one of the songs on there, but or off Highway to Hell. What's the other one? Right? It just plays the same chord slower. A little walk up. And then when the song kicks in, all right, on third phase. I'm happy to help out. Thanks a lot for the suggestion. Erica, what's up? Is the hammer-on with the acoustic harder than the electric? Generally speaking, yes. It will be tougher, okay? Particularly in the case of the R&B exercise I was showing you, because it's the pinky, and the pinky is just technically the weakest finger, right? So certainly that's going to even be hard on the electric, but you're helped a little bit on the electric. Just if you have a little bit of distortion, or just the strings are a little bit easier, the frets are a little bit easier. Your pinky wasn't hammering. It's hard, right? So you got to go to those exercises to try and strengthen the pinky. This kind of thing where you just practice hammer-ons and pull-offs. Okay? Yeah, my pinky's atrocious. So there you go. But you really got to work to get that note to be as loud as everything else, right? So yeah, just make it into an exercise, drill it, and don't overdo it so that you hurt yourself, right? You want to do it enough that you're strengthening it, but not putting your fingers in danger, right? Jody One, what's up? Thank you. I appreciate that. Always thanks everybody for tuning in. What else? Rusty, before we go, I tried playing Jesus Just Love Chicago. Can't play the 4-note C chord. Are you talking about this one? I think that's it, isn't it? The intro. I can't remember. Does it start on G? Let's double check it real quick. Maybe it's faster here. Give me 1 sec. Come on. Where are you? I know you're on here. So I'm hearing it. That's probably what it is, right? Okay, so the key is to have the pinky on the third fret of the high string and the ring on the third fret of the low string, so that you can go to making that into a C chord with the second fret of the D and the first fret of the B. That's the way I would do it, Rusty. There's, I'd have to investigate it because I'd love to see how he plays it live. If there's video of it, which, there usually is, right? That's a pretty popular song, but that's my initial, just from what I'm hearing, I would do that. That sounds right to me. Like that. Okay. That's the old hands. That's not easy, right? It's not really easy shapes to be, using the pinky and the ring for the G and then just add the C part like that. All right. So good luck with that. Yeah, that's the way I would try and do it. But maybe I'll check it out this week and we'll touch base next week. All right. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging tonight. Appreciate y'all coming back week after week, and we'll keep doing it. And we'll have I don't know what the theme will be or the topic will be next week, but we'll come up with something cool. Is there a different way to play that C chord? I mean, really, the easy way to do it is just to ignore the outside notes and just play the triads. Okay, I would just play open D, open G, open B, and then just... That's the easy way to play it if you want to. But then doesn't it go C to F? Can't remember. Anyway, we'll figure it out this week. He's easy top. All right. Thanks, everybody. Jazz House. Thank you. Nikki the dog. Thank you. Zane. All right. Erica, thanks so much. And Jim Gregory, if I didn't say it already, thank you. All right, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next week. Cheers.